Hey everyone, Tactical Safety here. This video is about the school shooting in Uvalde, Texas that happened on Tuesday. I received a lot of new information as of yesterday about different facts of the entire incident.
We begin here this morning with the outrage at authorities over their handling of Tuesday's mass shooting inside a Texas elementary school that left 21 people dead, 19 children and 2 teachers. State troopers in Uvalde, Texas now say the police response to the shooting was, quote, the wrong decision. Officers waited in a hallway for more than 45 minutes before confronting the gunman. This as children trapped inside a classroom with the shooter repeatedly called 911, while desperate parents outside pleaded with officers to do more. The terror lasted about 90 minutes and only ended when federal Border Patrol agents, not local police, entered the classroom and killed the gunman. Texas's governor is calling for an investigation into the police response. Omar Villafranca is in Uvalde this morning. Omar, what was the explanation given for why the officers did not act sooner?
Good morning, Jeff. The police chief of Uvalde schools was the commanding officer here on the scene, and investigators say he's the one that told the federal tactical unit that they could not go in there and engage the shooter. Why? He had deemed that this went from active shooter to a barricaded person type scenario and was waiting for more people and more equipment to show up.
Now, they said that law enforcement stood outside the rooms for 40 or 45 minutes. That is ridiculous. That is totally unacceptable. And they said that the Uvalde, the school police department chief or whatever, that he told everyone they couldn't go in. That makes zero sense at all. So none of these officers had the ability to think and act for themselves. You hear shots going off, you hear lives being extinguished, and you just stand there and do nothing? Those actions are just despicable. The actions of that police department, that chief especially, but then also his officers who stood by and did nothing. Their actions they are cowards, they are despicable, and it is appalling that went down like that. Because remember, I was a police officer for over 12 years. And as police officers, we're trained to run to danger, not from it. And we don't just stand idly by while people are in danger. When you wear this uniform right here, you take an oath. And I feel that that chief and every officer who stood by and refused to go in initially, I feel that they should have their certification revoked as well as being brought up on charges, especially violation of oath of office, because that's exactly what occurred. And the thing is, you can't be scared and be the police. In Illinois, we could have red and blue lights in our personal vehicles. And so I had my Yukon XL Denali and I had a Pontiac Grand Prix. Both of them were outfitted with lights, siren, all this stuff, because I know how to wire up all this stuff as well. I have my vehicles equipped like that. And I was so involved with being a cop that even when I was off duty, a lot of times I would go to the station and ride with my friend John. Me and him would ride together, even if I was on schedule and he wasn't, he would come in and ride with me. If he was on schedule and I wasn't, I would come in and ride with him just because I love police work that much. And then also a lot of times when I was off duty, I had my own radio and I would listen in to the channel. And if there was ever a situation like this, like a mass shooting, which there never was, but if there was one, guess what? I would have immediately called myself 1041 and I would have responded, even off duty. That's how involved I was. Because when you're a cop, that's something that's in your blood. That's something you are. It's not just a job that you clock into. It's something that you have a passion for, like I did. When I did the job for a long time and I served with distinction. If you're on the job, if you don't know for a fact that you're going to serve with distinction, then you need to turn your badge in. Do something else. I used to be a straight up action junkie. I would get to the calls so fast. I would usually be the first one at these calls. And especially if you have a school shooting, and we've done active shooter training numerous times. The most vulnerable people in society are our children and our senior citizens, because they are pretty much defenseless, especially kids. These kids are scared for their lives, and the officers did nothing. It doesn't matter if the guy has an AR. Most cops nowadays carry ARs, because as law enforcement, guess what? We have our sidearm, and this is what I carried when I was a cop. I carried a Glock 22 40 cal. It holds 15 rounds plus one. And then guess what else I carried? I carried a Glock 27, which is also a 40 cal. And I carried that as my backup weapon. And I also carried my custom AR-15, which has a lot of extras on it. And this kind of weapon right here, when you have an active shooter situation, this is what you need right here. This is the kind of weapon that's going to go against that. And then when they heard those shots being fired, those kids are in danger. Those kids had nothing. I wouldn't give a damn if I was the first cop there and I didn't have backup there. Guess what? I would have went running into that building. It wouldn't matter, because I know I have a vest. I have firearms. The kids and the teachers don't have either of those. They didn't stand a chance.
As parents and also officers were still hearing gunshots being fired from inside the school.
Even with 19 officers outside the classroom, including members of a federal Border Patrol tactical unit ready to engage the shooter, the decision was made to wait.
Of course it was not the right decision. It was the wrong decision, period. There's no excuse for that.
With officers a few feet away, teachers and students made repeated 911 calls from inside the classroom, begging for police to come and help them.
She's called back and said there was 8 to 9 students alive. Student, child, called back and was told to stay on the line and be very quiet. She told 911 that he shot the door. She asked 911 to please send the police now.
You had 911 calls at 12:10, 12:13,
Yes.
12:16. The shooter wasn't killed until 12:50. Did any of those 911 callers survive?
Yes.
Both or
I can't tell you that with certainty, but more.
I don't think any of those 911 callers survived. And that's ridiculous. That reporter said there were 911 calls at like 12:10, 12:11, 12:13, 12:16. And the gunman wasn't engaged until 12:50. It's almost 40 minutes later. That makes zero sense. If you're scared to do the job, then go do something else. You can't be scared and be the police. That's the bottom line here. And they said that the Border Patrol agents were standing outside and the decision was made for them to remain outside. As any law enforcement, if another law enforcement officer tells you if there's an active shooter situation going on and someone tells you, no, don't go in there yet, and you hear shots being fired, you hear people screaming like that, and someone is stupid enough to tell you that, if their actions are that egregious, then what you need to do is either take them into custody or take them out. One or the other. I'm going to say it again. If you are given the order to stand down and you are being obstructed from actively saving lives, whoever is obstructing your ability to save lives right then, take them into custody or take them out. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
More than one survived.
Days later, and new details are still coming out on what happened Tuesday morning. Investigators say after the shooter crashed a car near the school, he got out and shot at a funeral home across the street, and then at the school itself. He then hopped over a fence and entered the school building through a door that had been propped open by a teacher. And the
door had been propped open by a teacher. Which means that he was able to enter that school pretty much undetected with no resistance. There's no reason in the world for that, because most schools now, they have cameras all over the place and the doors are fortified doors. And most schools, in order for you to get in there, if you're going to pick up your kid, most of these schools, you have to be buzzed in. There might be an officer standing there at the door who will let you in if they know who you are. But they don't. A lot of these schools, you'll have to put your ID up to the camera and they verify who you are. You tell them who your kid is, and then they verify that you're on the list to pick them up, and then they buzz you in. That's how it should be at all schools. But like I said, someone left that door open, which should have never happened. The situation could have been totally averted if the doors had been secured, because then the gunman could have been, they could have engaged him and taken him out outside.